295 80295 on the text. And another idea on the text here, this is interesting. We identify ourselves to a central authority from the day we are born. We get a birth certificate, then we get a passport to travel, we get a driving licence to drive, we've got our national insurance number to work. Why can't the government issue a social media number used only for providing your ID if this is such a big problem? A little plastic card with a long number on it. It's unique, just like a credit card. All social media companies would require it before you can activate and use an account. So yes, ID should be required. It may make whistleblowing a bit more difficult, but there are other ways to do that. That's an interesting idea. So what have we got so far? We've got this deposit scheme idea that we just had there. We've got fingerprint ID, like you have on your phone before you can get on board, or a social media number issued by the government. Or is the easy way around all of this what's being suggested this morning by Manchester United player Harry Maguire, that we should simply have to register our identities before we can go online? What do you think? 80295 to text, or 08085 92 95 00 to give us a call. I'm going to speak to Anna Sarwar, MSP, in just a moment. But before that, here's Sam Murray, who is an activist with the Conservative Party. Sam, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining me this morning. Tell me about your experience of social media.
Yeah, I was announced as a local candidate, so it was only local borough elections, so your bin collection, that kind of thing. And as soon as I was announced, then I just got a barrage of abuse. But it was quite strong stuff, and I don't think I was quite prepared for it, because I think we get used to seeing, unfortunately, MPs being abused, but I just didn't expect to receive the type of abuse I was receiving for local level politics. So, talking about your social housing, that kind of thing. But it was quite alarming. Also, your address is published when you become a candidate, and I think the online abusers pounced on that as well. So I'm a single mum, so I was getting, well, your address has been published, so we know where you are, and you haven't got a man in the house to protect you. And I was called a murderer, a Nazi, I've got blood on my hands, and it was just within 24 hours of being completely hounded. I was just, what am I doing? And I had this moment where I thought, am I actually safe? Eventually, once you start getting used to it and you start reading that there's a pattern to it, you can sort of sift through that to see whether there's anyone getting in contact with you for, genuine questions about the area and your actual politics. But, the first time you experience that is horrendous. You put your kids to bed and then you read that and you think, am I actually safe in my own home? And then eventually, Angela said, you start noticing a pattern to these type of things. Women get a very different type of abuse to men, and you don't get used to it, but the fear side of it does go once you start realising that these types of people say the same thing. So it's not just one person. Once there's a few more people, you think actually these are just trying to intimidate you. They're not actually going to come to your house. But it's a horrendous experience.
Did you report any of this, Sam?
Well, I did report, so there was a person that I did know, so I was quite alarmed that it was, any time I was in the media, this person would put viral stuff online, and I reported it, and the police said that it was a civil matter because, and not a criminal matter, because there wasn't any threats involved. When it comes to just the anonymous stuff that I didn't know, we just deleted that because I didn't really know what the right thing to do was, but because I'd had an experience where there's someone I knew where they lived, and I said, look, I consider this to be harassment, and the police said, well, actually, you'd have to go through the civil courts. I thought, I didn't have faith that anything was going to happen with the ones that I didn't know who they were. So no, I didn't report it to police. I reported it to social media platforms, but they do nothing.
But that's interesting. So identity definitely does matter. There was that one that you knew where it came from. So if you had to register your ID to go online and people couldn't hide behind fake avatars, would that make a difference for you, do you think?
I think it would. I mean, when I had to change my surname on Facebook when I got married, I had to send them over a marriage certificate. So they do want some form of ID, or if you've got a business on there and you have to change details on there, you already have to send information over to Facebook anyway. So I can't see there being a problem. Obviously, we have, the previous callers have highlighted the fact that there isn't that trust that there once was in where we put our data. But I do think something needs to be done. If you use something like, there's a thing called Nextdoor where you can, post advertisements and things like that on there. You have to prove that you live there, so where you say you live. So they send you a postcode verification. Once you get a code, you then have to go back online to submit that code. So there are measures that are already in place for some of the platforms. The problem is, even if we do this, like your previous caller said, they already have rules in place and they don't care. Facebook really doesn't care about what's put online. I've reported, videos of a child being abused, and they haven't done anything about it. So I don't think these social media platforms really care, so long as they're making their money from their advertisement.
Sam, there's a text from Bernie here in Edinburgh this morning which says, easy answer to this, don't use social media as suggested by Phil Neville. The ID idea simply won't work. Too many loopholes, and social media companies not seriously interested enough. In my opinion, more effective, proactive moderation would be welcome. Why don't you just come off?
Well, it's incredibly difficult. So I have a disability, so I can't physically get to every single door. If you go out as a political activist, if you go out on a Saturday morning, say, and knock on doors, most people are not going to be out anyway. It's an easier way for me to allow people to see who I am as a candidate. I can also advertise community events that I'm putting on. It's better for the environment as well, instead of flooding everyone with leaflets. So there's lots of positives involved with social media. Unfortunately, there is a massive consequence that could be dealt with. Social media isn't a massive evil. It's just there is a horrible side to it, just like any other part of society. But unfortunately, we don't see it as walking down the street. That we see it as this anonymous thing where people can just put anything they want out there and think there isn't a consequence.
And why? There is. And why should you be hounded off? If you want to be on it, why should you have to leave? Sam, thank you so much for your time this morning and your experience. Sam Murray there, who's an activist with the Conservative Party, who again has just been through some horrific stuff on social media. So what do you think about how we stop that? We've been gathering views this morning. We had a suggestion about a deposit scheme. You put down a deposit and you get that back.